The city at night feels like a living creature, breathing, restless, always hungry. Its heartbeat pulses through the neon signs and the hum of engines. Its lungs fill with cigarette smoke and exhaust, and its veins run thick with crime. I know this city too well. I've walked its shadowed streets, listened to its whispers, chased its ghosts. But tonight isn't about shadows. Tonight, I'm stepping into the lion's den. For 3 years, one name has been etched into every report I've written, every lead I've chased, every sleepless night I've endured. Damian Rinaldi. The Bureau calls him a kingpin, a crime lord, a ghost king who rules with silence and blood. But no label fits him because he isn't a man who inherited power. He is the power. Where Damian moves, the city bends. Where he speaks, men obey. And when he strikes, no one survives to tell the story. I've been obsessed with him from the start. Not in the way that keeps you awake at night dreaming, but in the way that gnaws at your bones. Damian Rinaldi became more than a name on a file. He became a shadow stitched to the edges of my mind. Every blurred surveillance shot, every secondhand testimony, every whispered rumor, I consumed them all. And tonight, for the first time, I'll see him in the flesh. I sit in my car outside one of his nightclubs, hands gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles ache. The music inside is so loud the bass rattles the metal frame of my car. The recorder hidden in my jacket feels heavier than it should, like it knows the risk it carries. My alias is tight, my cover solid. Months of preparation have led me here. Still, my pulse races. It isn't fear. Not exactly. Fear is cold, paralyzing. This is heat, an anticipation that coils in my chest, sharp and restless. I tell myself it's the thrill of the mission, the adrenaline of walking straight into the jaws of the monster. But deep down, I know it's something darker. I straighten my tie, studying my reflection in the rearview mirror. Sharp jaw, steady eyes, the hint of a smirk that makes me look like I belong. Confidence is everything in undercover work. Walk in like prey, and you're finished. Walk in like you belong, and you just might survive. The bouncers outside the club barely glance at me when I approach. My fake connections run deep enough. I slip past the velvet rope and step inside. The club is a cathedral of excess. Crystal chandeliers scatter golden light across velvet booths. Smoke curls like spirits above the dance floor. Glasses clink like delicate bells, carrying laughter that sounds too sharp, too hollow. It's a world built on money, fear, and silence. I should be scanning for threats, cataloging faces, assessing exits. But my eyes are searching for one man only. And then I see him, Damian Rinaldi. He doesn't sit at the center of the room like a king demanding attention. He doesn't need to. The room bends toward him without being asked. He sits in the VIP lounge, dark suit cut sharp to his frame, a glass of whiskey balanced easily in his hand. His posture is relaxed, but it's the kind of ease that comes with absolute control. Every movement is deliberate. Every glance is command. His hazel eyes flick lazily across the crowd, until they land on me. For a moment, I forget how to breathe. Files didn't prepare me for this. Grainy photos never captured the force of his presence. He's magnetic in a way that burns. Those eyes don't just look at me, they see through me, peel me open. And I know, in that instant, he's already marked me. I force myself to walk closer, each step calculated. When I stop in front of his table, he sets his glass down with deliberate care. "You're not one of mine," he says. His voice is smooth, low, threaded with command. A statement, not a question. My smirk comes automatically. It's the weapon I've practiced. Maybe I just like trouble. A faint curve touches his lips, though it never softens his eyes. He studies me in silence, the air stretching taut between us. Then, with a flick of his fingers, he gestures to the empty seat across from him. "Sit." It's not an invitation. It's an order. My pulse hammers, but I obey. I lower myself into the seat, trying to mirror his calm. But up close, it's worse. Up close, I can feel the weight of his presence pressing against me. He isn't performing power. He is power. "What's your name?" he asks. "Adrian Vale." "Adrian." He repeats it slowly, like he's testing the sound, branding it. My skin prickles. "Tell me, Adrian Vale, what do you want from me?" The question nearly makes me slip. My cover story is ready, airtight. But the way he asks it, like he's peeling me open, like he already knows the truth, rattles me. "Opportunities," I say smoothly. "And maybe a drink." His chuckle is low, dangerous. He signals to the waiter with a flick of his fingers. "Whiskey." "Neat." Moments later, our glasses clink together. That sound is sharper, heavier than it should be. It cuts through the noise of the club like a secret no one else can hear. The conversation that follows isn't idle chatter. It's a duel. He asks questions. I deflect with lies polished smooth. But with every answer, his interest sharpens. His gaze lingers too long. His hand brushes mine when he passes me the glass. To anyone else, it would seem accidental. But I know better. He's testing me, circling me. And worse, part of me is circling back. Focus, Adrian. He's the boss. The reason you're here. But when his gaze drops, just for a breath, to my lips, my chest tightens. My breath stutters. And in that moment, I realize something terrifying. I'm not just hunting Damian Rinaldi. I'm already being caught. The night winds down. He rises, slipping his tailored coat over his shoulders. His movements are unhurried, deliberate, a man who knows he owns the room. He looks down at me, his voice smooth and certain. You interest me, Adrian Vale. That doesn't happen often. My smirk feels thin, forced, but it's all I have. Glad to be of service. His lips twitch, the faintest ghost of a smile. But his eyes hold mine for one long, burning moment before he turns and walks away. The crowd parts for him, as if the city itself knows its master has spoken. When he disappears, I finally exhale, realizing my fists are clenched so tight my nails have cut half-moons into my palms. I should feel triumph. Relief. I came here to get his attention, and I did. I've stepped into his orbit. But as I step back into the cold night air, my pulse still racing, I know the truth. This isn't just the mission anymore. This is the beginning of something far more dangerous. Something I may not survive. The whiskey burns on its way down, but not half as much as the weight of his gaze. Damian Rinaldi hasn't taken his eyes off me for the past 20 minutes. The music in the club beats heavy, bodies moving around us, laughter cutting sharp through the air. But all of it fades, dulled, because he's watching me as if the rest of the room doesn't exist. I should be pleased. This is what I wanted, his attention, his interest, the door to his world opening. But I can't shake the unease curling in my chest, the heat spreading through me every time his gaze dips too low or lingers too long. You're quieter than I expected, Damian says at last, his voice smooth low. He leans back in his chair, glass of whiskey balanced between his fingers. He looks relaxed, but I know better. Relaxed isn't the same as harmless. I smirk, because that's what Adrian Vale, the persona I've built, would do. Maybe I'm just listening. You learn more that way. His lips curve faintly. A listener. Rare in this city. There's a pause. He tilts his head, studying me with those sharp hazel eyes, and then he says it, simple, soft, but with all the weight of a command. Stay with me tonight. The words lodge in my chest like a bullet. My first instinct is to refuse. That's the rule. Keep your cover tight, don't blur the lines. But my throat won't work. Because part of me doesn't want to refuse. Part of me, the part I've been burying for months, wants exactly this. I force a laugh, leaning back in my chair. That's a bold offer. You don't even know me. I know enough, he replies smoothly. He takes a slow sip of his drink, eyes never leaving mine. One night, Adrian Vale. That's all I'm asking. One night. That's manageable. That's safe. I can justify it, to myself, to the bureau, as part of the cover. Getting closer to the boss means gaining trust, gaining access. One night won't change anything. Except, I already know it will. Still, I hear myself say, fine. One night. Damian's smile is small, dangerous, like a predator that's just tightened the noose. He rises, and I follow. His penthouse is nothing like the velvet chaos of the club. It's quiet, sleek, lined with glass walls that frame the city skyline in glittering light. The kind of place that speaks of wealth not just as luxury, but as permanence. I step inside, every sense on high alert. There are no guards here, no distractions. Just Damian and me. Drink? He asks, already moving to a crystal decanter. Sure. My voice comes out steadier than I feel. He pours 2 glasses, handing one to me. Our fingers brush, barely, a flicker of contact, and it sends an unwelcome spark straight through me. I take the glass quickly, drowning half of it in one swallow. Careful, he says with a faint chuckle. You'll dull your edge. I raise an eyebrow. You're assuming I have one. Oh, you do. He walks closer, his gaze never wavering. You've been pretending all night, Adrian. But the way you look at me, that's not pretend. My pulse stutters. Damn him. I open my mouth, some sharp retort ready, but the words die when he steps close enough that I can feel his heat. He smells of smoke and expensive cologne, something dark and addictive. Tell me, he murmurs, tilting his head slightly. Why did you really come tonight? My cover story is ready. I've rehearsed it a dozen times. But the way he's looking at me, like he already knows the truth, makes it hard to breathe. To see if the stories about you were true, I manage. And what do you think? I hesitate. Then, because my lies are truer than I want them to be, I say, I think you're dangerous. His lips curve, and before I can step back, his hand is at my jaw. Not rough, firm. Possessive. His thumb brushes lightly against my cheek. Good, he says softly. I'd hate to be misunderstood. The kiss comes like a storm breaking. Slow at first, deliberate, his mouth pressing against mine with controlled hunger. My mind screams stop, but my body betrays me. I'm leaning in, kissing him back, my hand fisting in the fabric of his suit. It's too much. Too hot. Too dangerous. When he finally pulls back, I'm breathless, my thoughts scattered. His eyes burn into me, dark and unyielding. Stay, he says again, lower this time, almost a growl. In my bed. I should refuse. Walk away. Run before the line is crossed. But I don't. The note is still in my pocket. It's been a week since that night in Damian Rinaldi's penthouse, and every time I reach into my jacket, my fingers brush against it, and my chest tightens. I should have burned it, shredded it, pretended it never existed. But I didn't, because deep down I can't. This isn't over. Don't pretend it is. The words echo in my head like a curse. I told myself it was just one night. I told myself I could keep it compartmentalized. My body in his bed, my mind still sharp, my loyalty untouched. But that was a lie, and I think I knew it even then. The Bureau has been pressuring me harder. They want progress, evidence, names, anything that will bring down Damian and his empire. I've been feeding them what I can, low-level scraps, enough to keep them satisfied without risking my cover. But every meeting with my handler feels like a noose tightening. And yet, when my phone buzzes and I see his name, just D on the screen, I answer. Always. Adrian. His voice is smooth, lazy, like smoke curling around my ear. Come by. It isn't a request. It never is. I'm busy, I say, because I have to. There's a pause. Then, calm and certain, cancel it. I close my eyes. My heart is already racing. Where? He chuckles, low and satisfied. You'll know. And damn me, I do. When I arrive, it's not the club this time. It's a restaurant, quiet, expensive, the kind of place where the waiters know not to ask questions. Damian sits at a corner table, tailored suit perfect, glass of red wine untouched in front of him. When his eyes find me, the rest of the room dissolves. You came, he says simply. You didn't leave me much of a choice, I mutter, sliding into the seat across from him. He smiles faintly. That's the truth. But admit it, Adrian, you wanted to come. I hate that he's right. The dinner is a blur of sharp conversation, half-truths, and silences that stretch too long. He doesn't touch me, not really. Just the occasional brush of his fingers against mine when he passes the wine, the way his knee knocks against mine under the table. Subtle but deliberate. Every small contact sparks like fire in my veins. At one point, his gaze lingers too long. You're distracted. I force a laugh. Maybe your reputation is more intimidating than I thought. He leans in slightly, his voice low. I don't need my reputation to intimidate you. The words hit harder than they should. My throat goes dry. When the meal ends, he rises, slipping into his coat with that same unhurried grace. He looks down at me, eyes sharp. Come with me. I should say no. I should walk away. Instead, I follow. His car is sleek, black, a predator gliding through the city streets. I sit in the passenger seat, trying not to notice the way his hand rests casually near the gear shift, so close to my leg that every turn makes my body tense. We drive in silence until he speaks, voice calm, measured. Do you know why I let you stay that night? I glance at him, searching his profile, the sharp lines of his jaw lit by passing streetlights. Because you were bored? He smirks. No, because I don't waste time on things that don't matter. And you, Adrian Vale. His eyes flick toward me, brief, burning. You matter. My chest tightens. You don't even know me. Oh, I know enough. You're careful. You're stubborn. You lie well, but not well enough. And you're drawn to me, whether you admit it or not. I swallow hard. He's right. Every word is a knife pressed to my throat, and I can't argue without bleeding. The car stops in front of his penthouse. My pulse spikes. This wasn't supposed to happen again. Inside, the penthouse feels different. Quieter. More intimate. He doesn't pour drinks this time. Doesn't play the game of small talk. Instead, he walks straight to me, closing the distance until his chest nearly brushes mine. You keep coming back, he says softly. I force a smirk. You keep inviting me. His hand lifts, fingers brushing my jaw, tilting my face up. My breath stutters. You could say no, he murmurs. I could, I whisper back. But I don't. The kiss is slower this time. Deeper. Less storm, more possession. His mouth moves against mine with control, his hand sliding to the back of my neck, holding me firmly in place. My hands grip his shoulders, and for a moment I forget everything. My mission, my lies, the weight of betrayal waiting outside these walls. All I feel is him. When he pulls back, his forehead rests against mine. His breath is steady, while mine comes ragged. One night was never going to be enough, he says softly, almost like a confession. I close my eyes, the truth cutting deep. He's right, and I hate myself for it. I wake the next morning in his bed again. The city sprawls beyond the glass walls, golden with sunrise. Damian isn't beside me, but the sheets are warm, and his scent lingers in the air. On the nightstand, another note waits. Stop pretending you can stay away. You belong here. My chest tightens, because the worst part isn't the possessiveness of the words. The worst part is that, deep down, part of me wants to believe them. Time changes things. When I first met Damian Rinaldi, every second with him felt like standing on the edge of a cliff. One wrong step, and I'd fall, broken, into the abyss. But months passed, and the abyss started to feel like home. At first, I told myself every moment spent with him was just a means to an end. When he asked me to stay the night after that first drink, I justified it as strategy. When his lips pressed against mine, I told myself it was manipulation. When his hand lingered on my back in crowded rooms, I convinced myself it was a performance. But lies have a way of souring when you repeat them too often. And the truth, no matter how much I tried to bury it, clawed its way to the surface. I wanted him. And worse, I was starting to need him. The days bled into one another, blurred by the haze of routine. Damian was always busy, meetings, negotiations, the constant game of control he played across the city. But somehow, he always made time for me. I'd wake in his penthouse to the smell of espresso already poured, the newspaper folded neatly beside it. I'd find expensive suits waiting in the closet, tailored to fit me perfectly, even though I never asked. At night, when the weight of everything threatened to crush me, he'd drag me onto the couch, tug me into his lap, and say nothing at all. Just let me sit there, safe in the quiet circle of his arms. There was a tenderness beneath his steel exterior that nobody else ever saw. And it destroyed me, because every report I wrote to the bureau grew thinner, emptier. I sent them names that didn't matter, details that wouldn't wound him. My words became smoke and mirrors, stalling, pretending. They wanted the empire. But I was already compromised. Already his. And in the silence of those nights when I lay against his chest, I started to believe, maybe, just maybe, I could belong here. But the illusion never lasts. It happened on a rainy night, months into whatever this was between us. Damian had taken me to a meeting outside the city, a neutral ground where he was supposed to finalize a deal with one of his associates. The air was heavy with storm, the warehouse dark except for a single overhead light. I stayed close to Damian's side, my pulse steady only because I'd learned to mask it around him. And then the trap closed. The steel doors slammed shut. Shadows moved from the corners, men with guns stepping forward. And from behind them emerged Vittorio De Luca, Damian's oldest rival. A man who'd been circling like a vulture for years, waiting for the right chance to strike. "Rinaldi," Vittorio drawled, his voice carrying the smugness of a predator. "You've gotten careless." Damian didn't flinch. He stood tall, calm, his presence enough to silence the room. "If you came here to waste my time, you've already made your last mistake." Vittorio smirked, and then his gaze slid to me. "Oh, I didn't come to waste your time. I came to show you something." My stomach nodded as he pulled a folder from one of his men's hands. Papers spilled across the concrete floor, photographs sliding into the light. My face stared back at me, blurry shots from the bureau, a background file, evidence I thought buried. "Your pretty boy," Vittorio said, his grin stretching wider. "He's not who you think he is. He's been playing you, feeding the feds. An informant in your bed." The world tilted. I couldn't breathe, couldn't move. My cover was gone, stripped bare in front of the one man I couldn't lie to anymore. Vittorio's voice sharpened. "You're slipping, Rinaldi. You've gone soft. I expected you to be smarter. But look at you, letting a cop warm your sheets. The warehouse seemed to close in. I braced myself for Damian's fury, for the cold violence I'd seen in him before, directed at me this time. But what happened instead froze everyone. Damian laughed. Low, dark, sharp. It cut through the room like broken glass. When he stepped forward, his presence swallowed everything else. Is this supposed to be news? His voice was steel wrapped in velvet. Do you think I didn't know? The silence was suffocating. Even Vittorio faltered. Damian's eyes found mine, burning, unyielding. I've always known, Adrian. My knees nearly gave out. You, my voice cracked. You knew. His hand lifted, brushing against my jaw, intimate, possessive, in front of everyone. From the moment you walked into my club. From the way you held yourself, the way you watched me. You were never invisible. Did you really think you could deceive me? Vittorio snarled. Then why keep him? Kill him, and maybe I'll respect you again. Damian's gaze snapped back to him, cold as ice. Touch him, and you won't live to regret it. The weight of his words settled like thunder. His men raised their guns in silent unison. Damian didn't blink. He's mine. Informant or not, cop or not, it doesn't matter. No one takes what's mine. The declaration sent a shiver through me so sharp I could hardly breathe. Vittorio's smirk faltered, anger twisting his features. But he saw the wall of loyalty at Damian's back, the unshakable steel in his eyes. He spat on the floor, gestured for his men, and slipped back into the shadows. The doors slammed behind him. And then silence. Back at the penthouse, the storm followed us. I stood in the middle of Damian's office, soaked from rain and sweat, my hands trembling. Why didn't you say anything? Why didn't you kill me? Damian poured a drink, slow and deliberate, then crossed to me. He handed me the glass, but his other hand cupped the back of my neck, pulling me close. Because I don't care. His voice was low, dangerous, meant only for me. Let them call you a cop. Let them call you a traitor. None of it matters. His forehead pressed to mine, his breath hot, steady. Do you hear me, Adrian? I don't care what you are. You're mine. That's all that matters. My chest ached, torn between relief and terror. Damian, Don't say anything, he growled, his lips brushing mine. Don't lie. Don't explain. Just choose. His grip tightened, anchoring me, possessive and unyielding. You can go back to them. Crawl to your bureau, let them chain you again. Or, his mouth hovered over mine, his words a vow. You can stay. Stay with me. And I'll burn the world before I let them take you. Tears blurred my vision. My whole life, everything I'd worked for, dangled on the edge of this choice. Duty. Loyalty. Justice. And him. My voice broke. Damian. He kissed me, hard, consuming, leaving no space for doubt. When he pulled back, his eyes blazed with something terrifyingly tender. You were my enemy, he whispered. Now you're my everything. Don't ever forget it. And for the first time, I stopped fighting. I chose him.